aspirant, I'm Karthikeyan from Inkar IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss about the 30th January current affairs. The topic taken from the Delhi edition. The topic is US withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. First of all, this topic comes under our GS3 effects of policy, politics and developed and developing countries on India's interest. In this topic, we are going to discuss about what is current issue, what is the Paris Agreement, why US leave the Paris Agreement, what are the 10 US retreating the global leadership role, and what are the concerns US withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. Is there any possibility to US joining the Paris Accord, and India and climate emission? So these are the topic we are going to discuss today. Let's move on to the topic. First of all, developing countries in the face of US withdrawal from the Paris Agreement need a calibrated strategy that must not fall prey the illusion that can make the huge gap created by America's stand. There can be a doubt that US President Donald Trump's decision to pull out the United States out of the Paris Agreement, which will legally come into effect in a year, a major blow of global effort to combat threat posed by anthropogenic global warming. The US, the world's richest nation, owing the third the world's wealth, with the highest annual gross domestic product, is singularly responsible for global warming, having contributed well over a fifth of the cumulative emission of carbon dioxide from the pre-industrial era to date. Under the principles of the terms of the United Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, to which the US is a signatory, it is also supposed to take a lead to climate action while providing the financial and technological means of developing countries to do the same. Possible under the global climate regime. First of all, US formally left the Paris Agreement on 14th November 2020, 3 years after President Donald Trump announced the intention to undo the what had been seen a key achievement in this president's Barack Obama. What is the Paris Agreement? In December 2015, that is 195 countries signed an agreement came into force on November 2016. That is United Nations Framework Convention on the Climate Change, dealing with the greenhouse gas emission, mitigation, adaptation, and finance. What is the objective of this UNFCCC? It slow the process of global warming by limiting a global temperature rises century well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level, and to pursue support and also effort to limit the temperature increase even after further 1 degrees Celsius. Another crucial point is the argument that attaining a net zero emission between the 2050 2100 nations have pledged to achieve a balance between the anthropogenic emission by sources and removal by sinks of greenhouse gases in the second half of the century. And also the agreement also include a mechanism to address financial losses faced by the less developed nation due to climate change. Impact like drought, flood. However, developed nation won't face financial claims since it does not provide a basis of the liability or compensation. So first of all, why the US government withdrawal from the Paris Agreement? During the 2016 presidential campaign, Donald Trump had described the Paris Agreement as unfair to US interests. It has promised pull out of the agreement is effective. And also June 2017 month after its inauguration, Trump announced his government decision to quit the accord. And also that the US could not immediately exit the Paris Agreement. However, the United Nations rules permitted a country apply for leaving 3 years after the accord came into force. That is November 4, 2019. The US formally applied to leave the day, and also departure automatically came into effect on the November 4, 2020. At the end of this mandatory year, long waited period. So, US withdraw from the Paris Agreement. First of all, the trend of US retreating the global leadership role. First of all, since Trump, that's the presidency of 2016 onwards, he quit the UN Human Rights Council and UN Cultural Agency, UNESCO, and also UN Human Rights Commission, and also pulled out from the Paris Agreement, and also Iran nuclear deal, and also cut funding for the UN Population Fund, UN agency help the Palestinian refugees and also opposed for the UN Migration Pact. So the criticism of US withdrawal from the Paris Accord, that step against the principle of common responsibility, GHG gas emission that done in past puts a moral obligation on US to take strict measure to cut down the future, and also that's a step US may result to domino effect with the nation to withdrawing from the deal. This would bring a standstill one of the most comprehensive deal of the climate change, and also provide that China an opportunity to show environmental leadership, especially with the climate commitment made during UN General Assembly September 2020. And also there is a US out of the Paris deal, that many of the US states and companies will consider themselves as a party to the deal. So this is the main criticism, and also there is a possibility of US joining back with the Paris Accord. That's a Democratic presidential nominee that Joe Biden has long maintained that the US world region he won the 2020 US presidential election. Also 30 days after formally applying the UN FCCC, the US would again become a part of the Paris Agreement. This would require a summit of emission reduction target by 2030, and also Joe Biden, who might possibly replace Trump as US President from 2021, has proposed $2 trillion spending plan that includes promoting clean energy and also climate friendly infrastructure. In the case of India, there is a climate emission. Despite the accelerated economic growth of recent decade, India's annual emission is 0.5 tons per capita, as well as below the global average of 1.3 tons. And also China, total CO2 emission is 29.51%. The world per capita emission is 7.7. So where USA total carbon dioxide emission is 14.34%, the world's per capita emission is 16.1%. In terms of cumulative emission, India's contributed by 2017 was only 4% for a population of 1.3 billion, whereas the European Union, with a population of only 448 million, that responsible for 20%. But India is only 4% with 1.3 billion people. India is one of the few countries which is currently to track fulfilling their Paris Agreement commitments. So India will do the same in future. Thank you so much.